Actuality around here. So I will call us to order. Tonight we'll begin with an invocation, and I'll call upon Councilor Bolt to lead us in that invocation. Then I'll lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, and then we'll go on from there. Everybody please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. And I have to say, what a pleasure it is to hear those young voices saying the pledge with us. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to this December meeting of Lawrence City Council. We'll begin tonight with just some opening remarks by way of an update of what's going on in the city. It was my pleasure yesterday to join many of you to celebrate the city's 180th birthday. The city of Lawrence was founded or established by an act of South Carolina legislature on December 15th, 1845, and we were able to gather together and celebrate that milestone yesterday, literally by celebrating a milestone and unveiling it. The original milestone that had been here, as far as we can tell, about 180 years, was moved to the museum to protect it from further damage that it has experienced over the years. And through the generosity of folks like Gray Mortuary, we were able to get a replacement that is as identical to the original as we could get it, that we hope will be there and we can all enjoy for the next 180 years. We got a lot going on with December events, so I would direct residents to check out cityoflawrencesc.com and under the special events and just keep up to date on what we have going on. But in the interest of time, I will keep moving and begin tonight with asking our Parks and Rec Director, Jason Pridgeon, to give us an update on what we have going on in the Parks and Rec Department. Jason?
Thank you, Mayor. Council, it's good to see everybody tonight. And tonight we start off with celebration. As you know, we do a lot of youth sports in the program, and we're very proud of everything we do. But tonight we've got a group of football players and coaches in front of you that has represented Lawrence not only on a local level but on the state level very well. We're very proud of them, just the way they conduct themselves and just the way they competed. You know, we provide the platform, and it's up to the parents and the coaches to buy in. This group has bought in as well as anybody I've ever seen. They've done fundraising efforts to buy gear and other things that we need. They are completely bought in from now until they're 12 years old. And that buy-in has shown on the field as they competed and became the South Carolina Athletic Program's upper state runner-ups in the 8U division. Can we give them a round of applause? Their journey started, they beat Greenwood County 30-0 in the first round. They beat Seneca 30-0 in the second round. And then they went up against Rock Hill, and Rock Hill defeated us. But I'm going to give our kids credit. We have about 45 kids in our program. Rock Hill has roughly 250. So our kids went up and gave them the best game that they had all year. they've made us proud, and the coaches. I want to give the coaches a lot of credit. They do a wonderful job. They lead them, they guide them, you know, they love them, and we're going to have a big, bright future with these kids ahead of us. And it's not just Lawrence kids, it's all of Lawrence County, and they have done a wonderful job. So I want to bring them up. We're going to have, I'd like to do a photo op with you as council and all of our kids and coaches. If they'll come up, is that okay, Mayor, if we do a picture?
Please.
With them? So guys, I want everybody to come on up right here. Stand right here, we're going to take a picture.
Step right on up.
So proud of you. Yeah.
Thank you, thank you. Well done.
All right. Great.
That's right.
That's right.
Eli, you ready? I told Eli he had to talk tonight, so he was a little nervous. All right, no, you ain't got to talk.
Oh, now you gotta give him a chance.
Ready to give a speech.
All right, everybody smile forward. We got pictures. Yeah, squeeze in a little bit, guys.
JB. Johnny Bone.
Can they get on their knee?
Is that better? Oh, you gotta smile.
One more round of applause for our
All right.
football team. Good job, guys.
Well done, guys.
Good job, guys.
Well
Good
done.
job, guys.
Parents of the football players, that is their time. If you want to go, you don't have to stay. We'll give you a minute to be able to exit.
Thank you, guys. Again. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
Really appreciate your help.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
Well done.
I wasn't gonna say that. I'll bet you, we might have to pull out one of the little boxes.
Age group, that's 8 and under, so 7 and 8 year olds.
Appreciate all those parents, families.
You know, we spent an hour for readers.
I don't wear sweaters much, I'm telling you.
Slimmy. All righty, Mr. Pridgeon, if you would like to continue with your report.
Yeah, so 2025 has been a great year athletically, but, you know, as a department, it's been a rough year. Back in April, we lost Andy McLeod, who had been our athletic director for 7 years. He died of a year-long battle of cancer. This past Thursday morning, we lost another staff member, Keith Rock. Keith had been a member of our athletic staff for 2.5 years. You know, very decorated high school basketball official and, you know, member of our department that, you know, just a loving soul. You know, the kids just love coming in and seeing him every day. And so just keep his family in your prayers. You know, it's a tough time. They moved down here from Minnesota. They live in Simpsonville, no other family. So his wife, Amanda, she'll be doing, you know, everything on her own. She has 2 small kids, a 9-year-old, 13-year-old, and a junior in high school. So keep them in your prayers, please. know, we're underway right now with our basketball program, going really well. Numbers are really good. We've got, about 17 teams in our program from 6-year-olds up to 12-year-olds, boys and girls. Our girls league is doing, really well again this year. As a year as whole, we started a new program in flag football back in May and June. Our volleyball program almost doubled its record size with close to 100 girls participating this year. And football, we restarted our Clinton program. So we've got really good football numbers, even though we can't compare to the big towns. But for our small town, we're doing pretty good with our numbers. So really good athletically and everything we're doing. Our rentals are going well. Facilities, facilities are aging a little bit, but for the most part, they're hanging on pretty good. City Park's in really good shape. We just finished our overseeding and preparation for the spring baseball program. Little River Park is aging very badly. It was put in, as you know, most of it back in 2004, and it's aging. But probably the park in worse shape is our amphitheater. It is a victim of vandalism, just bad things. People throwing rocks through the stage floor, wrestling matches on the stage floor, ripped out all the electrical wiring through the building. Just rough time. And the amphitheater, with the age, the flooding that it's received, it's not in good shape. Not in good shape. And in fact, I've recommended to the mayor a couple times that, we just knock it down. The thoughts of a new one is very encouraging to us because that could be a huge asset to our city. And, just with the amenities that we could put in there would be huge. Talking about Little River Park, our playground is almost expired. So adding a playground to a new amphitheater facility is, it's not a must, it's we've got to do something. And so, hearing the plans and seeing the plans for what we're gonna do with the new amphitheater, hopefully with the new amphitheater, it's gonna be really good for our city. So looking forward to that. That's our year. We're busy every day, especially with basketball. Rentals is really good. But that's what I've got. Anybody got anything for me, I guess?
Thank you, Jason. I appreciate it.
Appreciate what you do, Jason.
Appreciate the work you do and your whole team. The sort of following on Jason's remarks, it is my sad duty to share with council that E.J. Johnson, who was a firefighter with Lawrence Fire Department since March of 1990, passed away. And so it's been an incredibly tough year for the city with losses of employees. And our thoughts are with his family at this time as well. Finally, I debated about whether or not to bring this subject up, and something I asked several city employees about. My general tendency when it comes to things like rumors is to turn the other cheek. That's what my faith tells me to do, and I don't believe in adding gasoline to the fire. But when I hear that city employees are being asked on the street about some really outrageous rumors, I felt like now is the time to address it. There are no SLED investigations of anybody at City Hall. There is no missing money. That sort of nonsense is just ridiculous. And it really is shameful for the folks that have put that out there. But for the assurance of the public, I think transparency is the right way to go. And the best thing to do was to address that sort of thing head on. So we're better than that as a community, and I encourage everybody to be cautious about those sorts of things, because in the end, it really only hurts our community. So with that said, I think we have one last report from our Main Street Director, who's present with us tonight, who wanted to address council. And by the look on his face, I'm saying that we may do that later. So, if you would like to. I'm sorry, I didn't want to pass you over.
No, that's fine. I mean, I was told we didn't have time tonight, we were getting bumped, so it's not a problem. But, yes, I'm here to, present some things to the council on behalf of Main Street, since I am the director. Appreciate y'all allowing us time. We do special events, merchant impact, community reach, leadership and organizational strength, and, we also have an Airbnb. So just to report on y'all, our special events was very successful this year in 2025, being that I only come on in July of 28. So Squid on Square generated almost 40,000 from sponsors and vendors, had a total cost of $16,500, resulting in a net gain approximately $23,000. This event not only brought significant foot traffic to downtown, but also demonstrated strong financial stewardship and the value of investing in high-quality and well-organized events. These proceeds are reinvested directly into downtown programming, promotions, future events, allowing Main Street to continue growing without increasing reliance on public funding. Our Merchant Impact and Community Reach 2025 events, in addition to strong financial results, we're hearing direct success from stores from downtown merchants about our new customers coming in from outside the area. For example, this past Friday, Jeff Thompson, Jeff Thompson Jewelers. He's always been a big supporter of Finally Fridays and stayed open. In years past, it never really paid off for him. This Friday, he had couples that he had never seen before in Lawrence that come to our wine and chocolate walk and had a $1,400 sale this weekend on Friday night for him, which he bragged about that. He said that is a blessing. I talked with several folks this weekend, Friday night, that was there. I had one from South Dakota, one from Washington State. They had moved down here in Greenwood area, but heard about Lawrence and wanted to come see it. Saw on our Main Street website about a fundraiser we had going on, a function Finally Friday, and came and checked it out. So it's working. I mean, we're pulling in people, not only Lawrence people, we're pulling in outside people for our merchants and our stores and our restaurants. Leadership and organizational strength, well, under the new director's leadership, which is me, Main Street has developed a more active and engaged board and significantly increased volunteer participation. This strong organization foundation allows us to execute events more effectively, support downtown business, and plan strategically for the future. Our volunteers have increased tremendously since I've come on, which helps us out when we partnership with the city on the Christmas market. We pulled a lot of volunteers in to help work the little buildings. That way it keeps the city from paying their staff. Helps us out, and we have a great partnership and a strong partnership with the city. Looking at our Airbnb, we have the World's Clarity House has seen an increase this year in rentals, and additional income has helped cover a shortfall of our general fund. This demonstrates the value of maximizing our assets and using them strategically to support overall operations. That is my report from Main Street. I appreciate y'all allowing me to do it, and I thank you. Any questions?
Thank you, Brian. I just want to say you have really done tremendous work just in a very short time, and we really do appreciate the work of Main Street as an organization and just what a strong support and advocate you've been as director. So thank you for your
Thanks,
work.
sir.
All righty. That takes us to the public participation and hearing portion of our agenda. The first item on the public comment section is one speaker who signed up, which is Jake Cooper. Mr. Cooper, you are welcome to address council regarding the issue of a bond, which is what you identified as the agenda item you wish to speak on tonight. So we just ask that you limit your comments to 3 minutes.
Okay, thanks. I appreciate the council and mayor for allowing us. It's going to be very quick. First off, to our first responders, our police and firemen, I greatly appreciate you guys. I'm friends with most of you and know that I'm here to go to bat for you as well. But I find it very, very troubling to pair raises and things along those lines for city employees, government employees that need that money with something like a bond that we're doing. So give you a couple of quick things and a couple of questions. Is it appropriate to address the members individually and ask questions? Is that appropriate? I'll start with Mr. Bolt. Mr. Bolt, do you know what our annual hospitality budget is?
Excuse me, Mr. Cooper, it's not a dialogue, it's just simply
Okay,
your,
so it's not, I'm not allowed to get dialogue back?
correct.
Okay. So my question to all of you, do you know what our annual budget is? I would say maybe or maybe not. What is the pledge amount that we're pledging of that budget from our hospitality fund to pay back this? What are the loan terms, the rate, the amortization? Do any of us know any of that when we're fixing to vote on a $4.7 million loan that the city's gonna take out? So those are things that really, really bother me as a concerned citizen, as a business owner, that I've invested millions into this city. And I don't think the due diligence has been done, and the timing is not appropriate to lump these items together. The payroll and the things of the city employees has nothing to do, as you said in your office when I met with you, the city operational budget and the hospitality funds never overlap. So why do we overlap them on a vote? So that's one question. So during this process, the city received a $1.5 million sum from the state as part of an Appropriations Act. And so that money was to be appropriated towards to building of this amphitheater. Well, during that process, I think somewhere along the lines of after your State of the City address in April of 2025, a appointed council was put together to basically design, build, and work on this project together. And those members, April Bailey, Blake Davis, Barrett Holmes, Candy Wilson, Cassandra Campbell, Jason Lynch, and Jason Taverner, met a total of 2 times no later than May 28th. So my question is, if we're going to move forward with spending this amount of money, why has the group that's been appointed to oversee the project not met since May the 28th? So that's another major issue I have with the money that we are going to borrow, which has interest accrued on it. That's our children that are going to be paying that back. This amphitheater, and if any of you have been in the entertainment industry, know that this amphitheater will never cash flow the money in order to pay that back. And we're appropriating $400,000 a year of our annual budget to pay it back. So think about the math, guys.
Mr. Cooper, that's your time. Thank you.
Imagine that. But you hear it, you understand it. And council, I'm asking you to think about that prayerfully and understand. I'm gonna leave you with this, a quote from Luke 14:28. For which of you desiring to build a tower does not first sit down and count the cost, whether he has enough to complete it? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cooper. All right, the next item up on tonight's agenda is our consent agenda. Is a public hearing. We've received no other requests for addressing council. Is there anyone who wishes to address council? All right, hearing none. We move forward to the consent agenda. All those, do I hear any motions concerning the consent agenda, which contains 2 items, approval of tonight's agenda and approval of the regular minutes, the minutes from the regular meeting of November 18th.
Mr. Mayor, I propose that, under section 5, old business, that we, remove items 1, 2, and 3 from the consent agenda.
If the consent agenda is not approved by unanimous consent, then the items are by definition no longer to be considered as part of the consent agenda. So we'll need to consider each of the items
Yes.
in turn. So, Ms. Sullivan, I understand that the first item before us, approval of tonight's agenda, you wish to make a motion to amend the items under section 5 for old business so that we do not consider these 3 ordinances. Is that correct?
No, sir. I am requesting that, under section 5, under old business, items 1, 2, and 3 be removed from the consent agenda so that we can vote on them separately.
Ms. Sullivan, they would, that is what would have happened already.
Thank you,
They're not included in the consent agenda.
thank you.
If, okay. Ms. Sullivan, considering the fact that that would be what would happen anyway, would you like to withdraw your motion?
I didn't make a motion.
Okay. All right. Do I hear any motions concerning the consent agenda then, if there's no objection?
I'll make a motion, we approve the consent agendas.
All right, we have a
Move
motion.
along with business.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, motion and a second. All those in favor of approval of tonight's agenda and the minutes from our last meeting, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No. All right, those matters are approved. Now, moving on to old business. First up for us is ordinance 11-25-1, ordinance authorizing and providing for the issuance of limited obligation bonds, a hospitality fee pledge of the city of Lawrence, and other matters relating thereto. This matter passed before us unanimously at our last regular meeting. Do I hear any motions concerning this ordinance?
I'll make a motion for ordinance 11-25-01 for discussion.
All right, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
Yes. Ordinance 1125-01, yes, I would love to talk about this ordinance. I have a statement that I would like to place as well with this ordinance. If you allow me to read the statement regarding it. Response to ordinance 1125-01. I want to begin by acknowledging that the current administration has done an excellent job moving our town forward. My comments are not intended to criticize or insult anyone. Instead, they reflect my responsibility to ensure full transparency and may need to understand the financial details before committing to a long-term obligation on behalf of our city. At this time, I still do not have sufficient information to make a fully informed decision on the proposed bond issuance. Specifically, I have not received a detailed line item explanation on how borrowed funds would be spent. Specifically, each department may have a request or something for different amount or percentage of raises, and I would like to know so that if there's something to come back later about the raise or the percentage, we don't have nothing written to rely upon. I also have questions about our city's broader financial picture that appear relevant to this decision. In April 2025, the city authorized the sale of 24 acres of real property at parcel 906-24-01006 in Hunter Industrial Park. I would like to know whether the revenue from the sale is reflected in the amended budget and how those funds are allocated. Additionally, the city previously invested approximately $250,000 in Rudimentary Restaurant project. To my knowledge, that financial loss has not been accounted for or reconciled in any publicly available documentation. I would like to know whether this loss is considered in the current financial planning or connected in any way to the request for a new bond issuance. I also want to note that the council does not currently have a process for obtaining monthly legal guidance for constitutional or municipal lawyer in advance to votes. Having access to this type of legal clarification would help ensure that council members fully understand their responsibilities, obligations, and protections before voting on complex financial measures. Because these questions remain unanswered, and because I truly do not know the answers, I do not feel that I can confidently vote yes at this time, but it don't mean we can do it in the future. Instead, I believe the most reasonable action is to vote no and submit my statement to the record. I absolutely want our city to have the funding it needs to grow and thrive, My no vote is not a reflection of opposition, but rather a call for the information necessary to make a sound, informed decision on behalf of my community. And I would like to add this statement to the minutes.
Without objection. Ms. Sullivan, because you raised the issue specifically of legal counsel, we actually do have counsel here with us tonight. Mr. Lawrence Flynn of Pope and Flynn, who is the city's attorney. Mr. Flynn, would you care to maybe address any of the points that Ms. Sullivan raised and speak to counsel regarding the bond?
Well,
Absolutely. Can y'all hear me?
yes, sir.
All right, loud and clear. Magic technology. Sorry I'm not with y'all tonight. My wife is out of town, and so I am attempting to work and parent at the same time. So I appreciate y'all's patience with me. So a couple of things, and I think this will also help with the gentleman who spoke during the public comment session. So as y'all may remember, when we met at first reading, when we borrow money as a government body, it's controlled by the Constitution. And there's two ways we can do that. One of which is secured by taxes, which is the general pledge of the city's full faith and credit. And the other one is a pledge of revenues generated by the city from sources that are unique to a particular function. And so the ordinance that you have in front of you tonight is an ordinance generally approving hospitality revenue bonds, which is a particular source of revenues that y'all generate from basically additional pennies generated on the sales of prepared food and beverages sold within the city limits. And the authorization for hospitality fees is expressly authorized by the legislature in 6-1-700 of the code and the adjoining sections. And those authorizations for using that money are very limited on how you can use your hospitality dollars. Generally speaking, they're intended to be used for tourism-related hospitality amenities. And it can also be subsidized, or can be used to subsidize general fund expenditures like police and fire and some road infrastructure improvements necessary to serve tourism developments. And so the proposal in this first ordinance that you have is the authorization to issue hospitality revenue bonds, and it generally pledges that source of revenues for the ability to issue debt for those particular types of improvements. The second item you also have on the agenda is a series ordinance approving the particular bond issue for the $4.7 million to finish out the amphitheater project, but that is specifically authorizing the money for that project. To Ms. Sullivan's question, the money that is generated from the bond proceeds, so just so y'all are also aware, we have separately gone out, and prior to tonight's meeting, we have secured a bid we publicly bid this project. So we said, we have the money that we have from the state, and we know we need about $4 million of additional money to finish out the project. We went out to banks and we said, we intend to finance this over a 20-year period using our hospitality revenue stream as the security for that debt. That revenue stream is the only thing that is being used. There's no revenues intended to be generated from the amphitheater facility. There is no revenues pledged from the amphitheater facility that is being utilized as the security for the borrowing obligation. It is only the hospitality revenues. There's not a mortgage on that property. There's not any other city credit that is put behind it. It's only your hospitality revenues, and that's expressly allowed by state law. In that same vein, that money goes into a restricted escrow account, and the bank is going to say, when we close, and the plan is to close, but subject to obviously council approving both this first ordinance and the second ordinance to authorize it, it's supposed to close on Thursday morning, and so $4.7 million is going to wire into your account to pay off an outstanding obligation Assembly and can only be used for this amphitheater and infrastructure project. And that no gate receipts are pledged as security, such that as a hospitality amenity, it is a public asset that is intended to be used by the public at large, and theoretically is getting paid, at least in large part, by folks that are coming into your community and eating in your restaurants and your bars and your grocery stores, that are paying this one penny, you know, the 2 penny sales tax that you're charging as your hospitality fees. And so it's frankly not necessarily Lawrence proper citizens, City of Lawrence citizens that are paying for this. It's Lawrence County residents, it may be Greenville County residents, it may be Union County residents, it may be Spartanburg County residents that are coming into Lawrence to live, work, and play, or to at least work, you know, work and play, that are paying some proportionate share of this debt service over time. So I think the higher level question here really is, if everyone is sold on the amphitheater project, it needs to get started, because obviously the process has been initiated. We're trying to get closed on the property. The money can't be spent on anything other than that project. And so if you're sold on that, my advice would be to move forward and approve this ordinance at second reading, as well as the follow-on ordinance, the series ordinance that follows it, to specifically approve the bond issue, because we are planning to close on Thursday, and the bank is committed to that. The money will be in your account on Thursday. If you don't, we'll have to go back and basically retool this entire project and kick the can into the new year. I know that's a lot of information to throw at you at once, so certainly, any feedback you have, any questions you have, I'm certainly willing to entertain.
Sir, you've used two words, risk theoretically after the 10th year.
So I think the risk is relatively limited. Now, no one in this room has a crystal ball and can tell you where interest rates are gonna go 10 years from now. But the good thing is if the bank is not being reasonable, you have the opportunity to go out and bid it to anyone else without restriction. And so, you know, would it be great to have that rate fixed all the way through maturity for 20 years? Absolutely. That would be the bird in the hand. The bank is unwilling to take the long-term credit risk. And that's not city-related credit risk. That is them not wanting to lock in their cost of funds over a period of time in an unknown rate environment. And so it could be, you know, we don't know what the world is going to look like in 10 years. It could be that rates are at 3% or at 2%, in which case you actually wind up saving money. Again, I don't have a crystal ball to say that. They could go to 5%.
Or
in which case
6%.
the money goes up a little higher. But I will also say you're then not pricing on a 20-year borrowing. You're only pricing on a residual 10-year borrowing, in which case the interest rate should theoretically be lower than it is today. So I think your repricing risk is low, and I think the opportunity that you are receiving from the interest rate that has been locked in at least for the next 10 years is something that I feel comfortable recommending to move forward. Now, I can't provide financial advice because I'm not a registered financial advisor, but the city has also used First Tryon advisors to help work through this process and solicit bids. And we actually had the conversation with them to say, hey, you know, what are you doing on year 9 when the repricing risk starts looking? And they said, we're actually going to look at this every single year. You know, it could be that in 3 or 4 years the interest rate drop. There's no risk and there's no burden to the city if at any time over the next 10 years interest rates fall and you could refund it for savings, to go ahead and do that and refund it for savings. Is that going to happen? I think, again, that's anyone's best guess, but I think the chances are, you know, you have someone that's looking out for your interest to make sure that we're locking in the lowest cost of funds to make this project as cost effective as it can possibly be for the term that the bond is outstanding. That's a lot of words that may not have answered your question, but that's kind of where things stand. It's anyone's guess, but I think based on what you've been offered, it is a good deal.
Lawrence, how many bids did you receive for the bond?
I believe we received 3. Hold on one second. Let me pull it up. I should have had that up. Here's my bid summary. So when we were talking through it with the financial advisor, his advice was it's probably worth taking the lower interest rate from United Community at the 3.86%, knowing that you could always refund out of it if rates moved against you or rates moved in your favor, as opposed to locking in the higher interest rate at a higher cost with a fixed 20-year term. It's a calculated risk. You know, obviously having the bird in the hand of knowing the rate for the entire term is a benefit because you know exactly what the number is going to be for the next 20 years. But the thought was we were trying to keep the cost as low as possible in recognition of the fact that we think that hospitality revenue stream is going to continue to grow. And so the calculation was we'd rather have the lower rate now and always have the opportunity to refund or restructure at a later date.
But Lawrence, at the end of 10 years, there'll be a reduced principal. So even at a higher interest rate, we could conceivably see a lower cost per year for the city, correct?
That's exactly right. You'll have paid off about $1.8 million of the debt at that time.
And let me make sure I heard you correctly. You stated that the bond, could only be used on things like parks, so not payroll?
Only the amphitheater.
Correct. It can
Okay,
actually,
I
and
just
it
wanted to
can,
clarify
not only
that.
just things like parks, it can only be used on the amphitheater project park that we have previously discussed.
Okay,
We actually set up, Ms. Sullivan, a separate account, and it is strictly limited to amphitheater costs, and there are joint signatories on the account, so no one person could take funds out of that account for something that was improper.
right.
Lawrence, could I go back to the risk question that my fellow councilman talked about? At the end of 10 years, we'll be refinancing. Hopefully, we'll have,
The bank has a reset option built in, and so their rate is tied to an index called SOFR, which is a replacement index for LIBOR that was replaced as kind of the interbank creditor market rate several years ago. And so there actually is a methodology built into the bond issue that at the 10th year, it reprices at a percentage which is currently 79% of 1 month term SOFR plus 120 basis points, which is a really complicated way of saying there's a tax exempt interest rate factor based on the bank's corporate tax rate tied to a 1 month floating rate index that is basically set every single day because of the way a lot of commercial paper is priced in the market, plus a spread that the bank receives of 120%. So, for example, you can look up term SOFR. It's in the market every single day. Term SOFR today, I'm sitting here on my computer on 1 month, priced in the market today at, hold on 1 second. The 1 month term SOFR number today was a 3.96%. And so based on that methodology, if you did the calculation, so at 3.96% times 0.79 plus 1.2, the rate would be at 4.32 today. But we locked it in based on the bank's current pricing, we got it at 3.86. So when we priced, we were 50 basis points or 0.5% less than where we would otherwise be today. And so it's a moving index, and there's always risk with a moving index 10 years into the future. But it is a short-term interest rate, and assuming that rates stay relatively low, that's the risk you run. Now, there's also the counter risk that short-term interest rates could increase or could escalate. We could have a recession. That cost would be built into that pricing at some point in the future. But everyone is going to be dealing with that same risk, and you have the opportunity to go out and seek alternative funding on a revenue stream that is very, very robust. You know, your annual payment is about $340,000 a year. And I don't want to put Leslie on the spot, but y'all's hospitality revenues, I think last we checked, were more than double that. So we've got more than sufficient revenue to be able to secure this debt.
And that's what the bank saw. That's why
That's
they,
exactly what the bank saw.
that's why
That's
they,
correct.
that's why they offered the rate they offered. So going back
That's
to,
right.
so going
And
back,
just to confirm, in '24, you collected $851,000 of hospitality revenues against what your annual payment would be $340,000 a year. So you've got, worst case scenario, if the interest rate at the 10-year mark, this is, what are your risks here? The interest rate spikes to some number that's astronomical, and many, many businesses and commercial establishments in Lawrence go out of business such that you don't have a revenue stream to support repayment. But right now, looking at all things being equal, you have a payment of $340,000 a year against revenues of $850,000 a year. So you have nearly $500,000 of surplus revenues after you make your debt service payment to continue to work with, which is the reason the bank ultimately felt comfortable to give you this rate.
so after 10 years, it'll reset,
Correct.
or we can go out to the market and
Secure other financing.
can that financing, so, even though this is currently at 20 years, at 10 years, can that be extended? If, let's just say doomsday, that everything went to hell in a handbasket. In 10 years, could we, say we could go another 20? Could we?
Yes.
Okay.
There
So
are,
that's,
the
that
general
reduces
rule of
that reduces our risk, is what I'm getting at.
That's exactly right. The general rule of thumb is that you do not want to finance an asset that lives beyond its useful life. This part, the thought would be it's a 20-year asset at minimum. The hope is that it's there for the next 50 years. And so you could finance it up to that period of time if you needed to. You just don't want to be continuing to finance an asset
Sure.
that is no longer in service.
Sure, I'm just referring to the fact that I'm trying to address the risk. We've addressed the fact that the bank doesn't think we're a risk. They've given us a great interest rate. We've addressed the fact that we've got more than double hospitality money to be able to service the debt. And on top of that, that even if interest rates went to some crazy number, which we certainly all hope not, because we'll be in a lot worse trouble if we get that, than we would be servicing a $340,000 debt, that we could actually extend it so that we could keep our payment down to an affordable level for future. Because I know I won't be on council then, and I doubt anybody else here will be. So to address the fact that we're gonna be mortgaging our kids' future, I think that's, that alleviates that as well. So we won't be spending money that won't be coming in. And even if it does drop to over half of what it is right now, we would still be able to service the debt.
Correct.
Okay.
That's yours, okay.
Theoretically. Right?
Yes, I mean, look, God willing, the creek don't rise. I think there are lots of positive credit things. Can we assume every single risk? Absolutely not. I mean, could the world catch on fire and everything else go to pot? Sure, but that's really the bank's risk. It's not your risk.
For council's benefit, I've also asked Mr. Gary Baylor, the city's independent financial auditor, to be here tonight, provide information. Gary, would you mind addressing council to sort of discuss some of the issues that we've been discussing and specifically related to this bond?
Sure. I think the mayor has in your package an executive summary. So the mayor asked me if I would look at 2 items.
Sorry about that, that's me.
I'd look at 2 items. One, the hospitality fund, which your city attorney addressed the same way I would address that, as far as funds can only be used, the hospitality revenue is the only revenue that can use to be paid back this bond. So what I did is I took We have audited 6/30/25. We're actually scheduled to start that audit next month. But I did take historical numbers, 22, 23, 24 audited historical numbers, and I took the unaudited 25 numbers and the year-to-date 26. And so what I was trying to do is I was trying to look at, on the hospitality in particular, I was trying to look at, just what the city attorney was addressing, the revenue source to cover that $340,000. And what I found is, as the city attorney said, the last audit year, you had $852,000 in hospitality revenue. The 2025 year in, again, unaudited, but it's very consistent, was up a little bit more than that, is at $870,000. And currently through December 11th, I got a trial balance from July 1st through December 11th, you're trending a little bit higher than that. So if that trend continued, you'd be over $900,000 of hospitality funds for this fiscal year ending 26. So to the city attorney's point, if you have a $340,000 debt service, you're almost pushing 3 times that in hospitality funds is what I'm seeing here. I'm just giving you the numbers here as they are. And on the, you want me to go ahead and address the general fund, or hold up on that one?
I think,
I can come back up.
since we have that coming up in a letter ordinance, if you don't mind, we'll set that aside for the moment.
Okay, so
Thank you.
that's what I did, looking at the hospitality, with the debt service, the city can afford the, debt service based on the hospitality dollars that are coming in. So,
Thank you.
I'll be glad to answer any questions on what I did there, but,
Gary, would I be safe in representing the council that hospitality has consistently gone up every year for the past 6 years or so?
it is, so my numbers here, I started with 22. Back in 22, the audited number, hospitality dollars was just under 712,000, increased to 756 in 23, increased to 851 in 24, increased to 870 in 25, and trending over 900 in 26.
Thank
So
you.
yeah, it's been a constant increase.
Lawrence, you sort of touched on the fact that we would have a financial advisor looking at the situation and sort of monitoring it. Let's say hypothetically, the Fed were to reduce interest rates, as it appears they are inclined to do. Would there be anything preventing us from refinancing this next year at a more favorable rate that would lock it in for the entire term?
No, in fact, we've had that before, and that's the bank's risk. They put in no redemption premium at all. And so you can redeem at any time at par plus accrued interest to the date of redemption. Basically meaning the bank is at risk on a downside market interest rate adjustment that they would be taken out. And they recognize that risk and we're willing to do it. And as noted earlier, we believe you have a below market interest rate that's been proposed by the bank in its current form. And that may be some of the way they've tried to mitigate that risk of being taken out early.
Thank you. Council?
And guys, I will say, I recognize that this is a very, anytime we borrow money at the local government level, it's a complicated question. As your city attorney and as a bond lawyer by trade, I do this work all over the state. To the extent you have any concerns about the underlying legality or structure of the obligation, I sign an opinion to the bank at closing on my letterhead that says, this debt, and this is all subject to council making the decision tonight to move forward with second reading of both of these ordinances. You've already done the public hearing. But I sign an opinion to them saying that the ordinances have been duly and validly adopted in accordance with state law, and that the bond in the hands of the bank is a assurances outside of just the actions of council that you have the legal and valid authority to do this, and that money is lockboxed to the specific purpose for which you intended to borrow it.
What other questions do we have, council? I do want to address one point that was raised and during the public comment section. Why pair this to a budget increase that would address salary raises for our city employees? Well, city budget has both hospitality fees and the general fund that are budgeted by council. And so if there is an increase in employee compensation that comes from the general fund, that would require an amendment to the budget. If there is a reallocation of funds from hospitality, that would require an amendment to the budget. And so because these are the two issues that are before us and both require an amendment to the budget, the proper way to handle it would be to introduce a budget amendment that does those two things. So it's just city budget 101. I hope that helps address that question. Are there any other questions for council or city auditor regarding this matter? All right. Is there any further discussion regarding ordinance 11-25-1? All right, hearing none. All those in favor of passage of ordinance 11-25-1, please indicate by saying aye. 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 Any opposed, no.
Nay.
And ordinance fails by 3-4 vote. Now, the next ordinance before us is ordinance 11-25-2, an ordinance providing for the issuance and sale of a not exceeding $4,750,000 limited obligation bond, hospitality fee pledge, series 2025 of the city of Lawrence, and other matters relating thereto. Given the vote on the previous ordinance, I believe, subject to city attorney's guidance,
There is no authorization for this ordinance to be approved because the master bond ordinance has failed.
so that being the case, I would entertain a motion to table that ordinance.
Make a motion, we table ordinance 11-25-02.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. Call the question. All those in favor of tabling ordinance 11-25-2, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. And the matter is tabled. All right, and then finally before us is ordinance 11-25-3, an ordinance amending the budget of the city of Lawrence for fiscal year July 1st, 2025, and ending June 30th, 2026, and other matters relating thereto. Do I hear any motions concerning this ordinance?
I'll make a motion so we can discuss it.
Thank you. We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second for discussion.
All righty. We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? I'm sorry, Mr. Bull?
This was affecting the budget to what was
So, the ordinance before council amends the budget to account for the allocation of funds from hospitality, and it increases payroll for city employees. We froze hiring and salaries when we adopted a budget in July, or excuse me, May, June. It went into effect in July, and it was council's statement at the time that we would seek to amend the budget when funds were available. And so, having had revenues sufficient to support pay increases, this matter was brought before council. Mr. Flynn, do you have any comments for council regarding this ordinance?
So the only thing I would add, I think we talked about this when I was there for first reading, to the mayor's point a little bit earlier, the actions of council had to be budgeted. So there are specific parameters of state law that provide you can only spend monies that have been subject to a legally valid appropriation by the governing body acting through your budget process. So you obviously operate on a July-June fiscal year. You adopted your fiscal 26 budget back in early June. In order to increase the line items for staff salaries in accordance with the salary report that was performed by a third-party group and have those implemented, they're higher than the budgeted salaries that were approved by council as part of the budget. And so the open question that is in front of you today, if you want to move forward and pass and process the salary adjustments in accordance with the salary report that was performed by your third-party consultant, the only way to do that is to pass second reading of this ordinance, which would then impose an amendment to the budget sufficient to increase the salaries commensurate with the report. If second reading is not given, then those salary adjustments will not be put in place, and the existing budget will stay in its current form.
Thank you, Mr. Flynn. And likewise, Mr. Bailey, do you have any comments for council?
Just like with the hospitality dollars, the mayor asked if I would do a similar exercise with the general fund. And so we took the audited 22, 23, 24, the unaudited 25, and year-to-date 26. So what we were trying to see is, can the city, I'm looking at cash flow. Can the city's cash flow handle this proposed salary increase? And, you know, as you understand, right now is typically municipalities' lowest cash in the bank. This would be the lowest time of the year because a lot of your revenues start coming in late December, January, you know, business license, property taxes, and so forth. So what we did is we went in and we estimated what it would look like for fiscal year 26 with the 300,000, roughly is what the number we used, $300,000 in labor increases. And there was a couple other adjustments that you could see. Again, these are trends based on how 25 ended and the way the first 5.5 months of 26 is going. And it looked to us that after debt service, with a $300,000 increase in payroll, the city would end somewhere around $118,000 of positive change in fund balance. That includes the increase in payroll. And so then I fast forwarded that to say, hey, if that continued, what would the cash look like this same point? Ultimately, what I'm looking at for you is you got to have the cash. The cash comes in this next 6 months. Okay, you can easily pay the 300 based on the cash coming, but the cash that remains at June 30th, is it enough cash to get you back through the tough months of the fall before the cash starts coming back in. And it looked like, based on the projections, you should be slightly better than you are right now, even with the pay increase. Now, that's maintaining the current spending, that wouldn't allow for the city to go out and do a lot of other things within the general fund. So if you put that labor increase in there, making sure the budget's followed, so limiting other spending. I mean, you still can spend within the budget, just, there's not gonna be a lot of room to amend the budget to add additional spending in there, is what I'm getting at. But, you should be able to get back to this same point next year with hopefully slightly improved, cash balance than you do at this moment, again, before the next cycle of revenue starts flowing in. So, again, this is based on audited 24, we haven't audited 25, so, but we have gotten the trial balance and looked at the numbers, but I just want to point, these are unaudited numbers.
Thank you, Mr. Bennett. Council, what questions do you have for either Mr. Bailey or Mr. Flynn?
What's the percent increase in salaries where we're
I was
talking about?
going off of a dollar amount, so I was
Dollar
using
amount.
300,000 as the delta there in my calculations.
A certain percent of each, for each employee?
Oh, I'm not sure because I don't know it by line item, I'm just using a total number of 300,000. If the cost is 300,000 to the
300,
city,
okay.
yeah, I don't know a line item
Okay.
by employee or anything like that.
So that's what we need, the line item information, to make sure, so, it's already a motion on the floor, we could have tabled it, but, so that we can get the correct information for each department. Cause we're not against no raise at all, but we just don't have all the information we need to make a decision on how much going in which department, it's not specific. And then looking at over my notes from the budget workshop, we already had an increase in salary, to that extent, to almost 300,000 in the city administration salary specifically. So we just wanting to know so we can make sure, we had our I's dotted and T's crossed.
Ms. Sullivan, if I can just correct a couple matters of fact that you raised. It has never been the practice of the city, in any budget that I've ever seen, to give an employee by employee salary amount
No, that's.
to council. There is a line item per department. So the increase in the administration budget that you are referring to reflected, if you recall from the budget workshop, a move from between departments of employees for city employees. But the pay increases would be directly related to the pay study that was conducted by Archer Group at the behest of the former city administrator, which identified certain positions and roles and what it would take to have a minimum amount, a median amount, and a maximum amount that would compare to other municipalities in the area and what they were paying for those similar sorts of positions. So, Ms. Miller, to your point, there's not a specific across-the-board percentage. It is tied to sort of the market rate. I mean, our fire department, our streets and sanitation workers in particular, are well behind where they need to be. And so this is intended to help all departments, but in particular to help catch up to the market rate in those departments that need help most.
And we all realize that it is the street and sanitation department that's the most underpaid, and not reflecting, and as Ms. Sullivan said, we totally not against giving them a raise. We want them to have a raise, but we got to have a little more information on this.
Well, I actually reached out to council before this and asked whether there was any information that I could provide. I would gladly have brought that with me had those messages been responded to. But I'm happy to provide whatever information I can.
I think we need some tangible information and workshops before we pass something such extreme as this, so that we can know how to measure each raise in department and percentages.
Thank you, Ms. Sullivan. Is there any other discussion? Thank you, Mr. Bailey. Are there any further questions for either Mr. Flynn or Mr. Bailey? All right. Is there any further questions or discussion regarding ordinance 11-25-3? All right, hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor of passage of ordinance 11-25-3, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No.
Nay.
And the measure is defeated.
Mr. Mayor, point of quick order. I just want to get a clarification from council. Relative to the bond ordinance, the 1125-01, we tabled 1125-02. That keeps it on the floor. 1125-01, by being rejected by council, is now a terminated ordinance. And if council so chose to reinitiate the bond project at a later date, we'd have to restart the entire approval process from scratch. That may be the will of council, it may be that no one wants to move forward with the bond issue. I only bring that up to say, you can make a motion for reconsideration in the current meeting or in the subsequent meeting if you are in the party voting to disapprove that ordinance. And my request would be, if there is consideration that it may come back up at a later date, I would make a motion to reconsider and then table second reading of the bond ordinance so that it can be considered at a later date if the bond issue is something you intend to potentially take up in the new year, as opposed to restarting the entire process from scratch.
I accept.
Mr. Flynn, from the comments of council, I don't want to read too much into the comments. If, to the extent the nature of council's concern is specifically related to the variable rate of the loan, do you have any guidance from a parliamentary standpoint about how best to address that?
So there's authorization in the series ordinance for the mayor acting in his capacity as the mayor, as the delegated agent of council, to make award to the bidder, providing an award offer deemed most advantageous to council. And if the will of council was such that the most advantageous rate was the one that locks in the cost of funds over the entire term, the advice would be
So I want to make sure I'm understanding you correctly. What you would be suggesting is a motion to reconsider 11-25-1, which would be the master bond ordinance, and rely on the language in that bond, which would authorize me to accept a different bid from a different bank, but we would actually, if it,
Which is actually 11-25-02.
02, okay.
But you can't issue a series of bonds through a series ordinance unless the general or master bond ordinance has been approved, because that gives the parity debt authorization pledging that particular source of revenues, and then a series ordinance is issued under the master bond obligation. So you have to have it in place in order to issue a series of bonds. And so if there's, my thinking would be, if there is still consideration to move forward, as opposed to restarting the full reading process, we could go back, have conversations with Huntington, or whomever else we chose to have conversations with. But if there's a motion for reconsideration to reconsider the rejection of second reading of 11-25-01, and then an immediate motion to table that, to hold it on the table for a subsequent meeting, you would only have to come back at a future meeting and approve second reading of the bond ordinance and the series ordinance in order to be able to move forward to closing. And so it would theoretically save 30 days in the new year.
I would like to revisit ordinance 11-25-03 and suggest that we table that so that we can, at some other point, after we have had workshop or further discussion on how that can be done effectively for the future.
And so that same process would also apply for 11-25-03. Any of the members voting in the majority that rejected second reading could make a motion to reconsider the rejection of the ordinance, and then that would have to be, that procedure would have to be voted on. It's been the matter is then reconsidered on the table, and then a motion would be made at that time to table the ordinance at second reading, which would kick it to the next meeting or whatever subsequent meeting of council y'all chose to do. But first reading would still be properly proceeded.
So I make a motion that we reword the motion, revisit the ordinance 11-25-03 so that we change it to be tabled versus.
So let's start, I don't want to over-procedure it, but let's make a motion to reconsider the rejection of ordinance 11-25-03.
So moved.
And that can be made by
Yes,
So moved.
Thank you.
yes, because I think we got ahead of it.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second,
All right, there's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
And I want it to be known to our city workers, we're not against you. We want you absolutely to get more, but we want to make sure that we are still solvent as a city at the same time.
To add to that, we definitely want to bring them up from the study because our employees, especially street and sanitation, is way behind the other street and sanitation departments throughout the state.
So for those who rushed out earlier, know that we're with you.
I'd like to say I'm glad. I'll be happy to vote for this. This is good process.
Yes.
At the same time, I would hope that council would see fit to do the same on the first ordinance as well. I want to voice that opinion, that those in the nay would do the same thing, and then we can have a workshop and talk about that.
So I believe where we are, we have a motion and a second.
Yes.
A motion to reconsider, you need to vote on that.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I will call the question. All those in favor reconsideration of ordinance 11-25-3, please indicate saying aye. All right, measure is approved. And now I believe there would need to be a motion to table 11-25-3. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right.
I make the motion that we table
11-25-3.
11-25-3.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All right, hearing no discussion, all those in favor of tabling the motion to amend the budget, 11-25-3, please indicate by saying aye. Any opposed, no. And the matter is tabled. Are there any further motions regarding reconsideration of any further ordinance in accordance with what has been suggested? All right, hearing none. All those matters before us on old business have been dealt with or tabled. That brings us to the last item on the agenda, which is this motion to adjourn.
I would like to make a motion that we adjourn for tonight.
Second.
Second. All right, we have a motion and a second. If there is no objection, we are adjourned.